Maybe it's just numbers rocketing like flies in and out of swollen days and saintly years and buzzing around the ecology of my room like electric ping pong balls. And maybe it's just numbers that killed my pot plant, ones and twos and threes, tick tick ticking up and down green stems, sending messages to the leaves of rot and of death. And maybe it's just numbers that crack the full and throbbing sky right open and send that rain right on down through canopy and crevice and crack and into the roots and sprouting back up again. And maybe it's just numbers which guide the rivers through the hills and through the valleys and into the cities where they send the time away. And maybe it's just numbers that bend and snap us all towards the coastline. And maybe it's just numbers that send us like silver rockets beaming through the years, space age. And maybe it's just numbers that made us all grow up so fast. And maybe it's just numbers that tick and tock the Armageddon clock closer, 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 closer to nuclear midnight every passing second. And maybe it's just numbers that send us death-driving sunbeam sunset Galahads up and down country roads, and maybe it's just numbers, and maybe it's just numbers, and maybe it's just numbers, and maybe it's just numbers that will break your heart. And maybe it's just numbers that click-a-clack, the projector behind our lives. And maybe the light that shines on through our torsos, thin and twisted and waxy grey, and projects us against the turned-on television sky. Maybe that's just numbers as well. Maybe it's just numbers that rip us hollow and howling. And maybe it's just numbers that leave us sick. Maybe every burnt red flash of death against a bright blue sky we see on a dying autumn tree is just numbers. And maybe it's just numbers tickling away in our head when we reach for the sky and dance with the stars and crack our bodies post-haste over each other in hope of sending spinning ones and zeros in our DNA off into some strange future. Maybe every little breath and lie and dream and choice we make and shirt we buy, and maybe every poem is just numbers. Brain information, ones and zeros, there they are again, ones and zeros, made manifest. Maybe it's all just numbers ticking away, one at a time, tick, 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 until who knows when. And maybe half past infinity, on the great big clock in the sky. Maybe it's just numbers that send us all this way.